everybody.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first ever live stream from City Hall. We are so excited to be here tonight and hope to provide you some really good information on a lot of these burning questions that you've been posting on our What's Your Question Wednesday. My name is Regina Cave. I'm with the General Services Department.
And I'm Allison Bermudez with the Community and Economic Development Department.
And we're going to go ahead and get started on answering some of these questions regarding roads and transportation.
Great. Thanks, Regina. Thanks for joining us. So Judy and Wendy had some questions about Antelope Road Overcrossing. Are there any plans to improve its appearance? Judy says it's ugly and doesn't give a good impression.
And we concur. Short story, we do actually have some plans in the near future to do some improvements along the Antelope Road Overcrossing. The city did conduct a feasibility study a couple years ago to look at the pedestrian and bicycle accessibility over Antelope Road, and also to see how we can address a lot of those traffic safety concerns. We are expecting to receive some money through what is called the Sacramento Transportation Authority. It's Measure A maintenance. We are hopeful by January, February of 2020 to know when those funds will come through and how much will come through. And then we can go ahead and proceed with the reports that are necessary with Caltrans. It is a Caltrans facility, so there is a lot of coordination with Caltrans. And then once we know how much money we'll have, then we can go ahead and start our planning for design and eventual construction of Antelope Road.
Great. And also they asked about exiting that exit 100 there at Antelope Road and that short merge lane going on to Garden Gate. Any way to improve the safety there?
The project does include looking at that area in terms of eliminating what we call a free right and straightening up or hardening up that turn. Again, the problem is because it is a Caltrans facility, we have to keep in mind how that will affect the freeway and stacking of traffic. So that will be a lot of coordination with Caltrans, but we will be sure to include that as part of our overall plan.
Great, great. All right, so moving on to road repair. We had a lot of questions about this. Several questions about potholes, so let's just ask it. How come there's potholes?
Well, potholes are not unique just to Citrus Heights. Unfortunately, it is not only a regional issue, a statewide issue, but we're seeing it nationally. We do have a lot of aging old infrastructure, and unfortunately, just not enough funding that comes down here to the local agencies to address a lot of the potholes. Here in Citrus Heights, I can speak that we do our very best to address potholes as soon as we're notified of them. So while our staff drive around to inspect the potholes, we also heavily rely on the eyes and ears of our community. So please be sure if you see a pothole, report the pothole. Please don't wait.
Great, great. And a couple questions on that also came up, like someone will report a pothole, they see it fixed, and then a few days later it seems to reappear. Can you talk about that?
We address potholes differently at different times of the year. So during the rainy season, obviously, it's very difficult to address it with what we call hot mix. The plants are not open during the wet season, the rainy season. And so what we do is address it with what we call cutback. It's a temporary fix, but it's immediate fix to the pothole to eliminate that hole and that potential damage. And then we typically go back and address all those potholes with a more permanent solution such as a hot mix asphalt.
Great. So talk about potholes and reporting. We, as city staff, we look for them when we're out driving around and report them, but what can the public do to assist?
Please be sure to report it. So you can contact our General Services Department directly at 916-727-4770. You can also email us at servicerequestgsd, that is GSD for General Services Department, at citrusheights.net.
Great, that's important information. So hopefully we have some people joining us out there, and if we're talking, you have a question about something, feel free to type it in. We'll try to answer questions as they come up. The questions we're answering now have been submitted to us over the past couple weeks, but we're happy to take your live questions too. So feel free to join in and send us some questions if something else comes up. So let's talk about road resurfacing. We had a lot of questions on this resurfacing. So not just pothole filling, but the resurfacing of the road. So Star, Janelle, Kathy, they all wanted to know about how that was determined.
So I'm assuming this is probably coming a lot from the recent article regarding SB1 and how we are allocating our funds. The plan for the city is for the next couple years to allocate those funds towards our residential streets. While we do recognize that our major corridors, our Sunrise, our Greenback, those roads do need some repair, We look to put the money back into the residential streets because of the limited funding that we're receiving, and the money goes a lot farther in addressing our residential streets versus saving up multi-years worth of our funding to do a major corridor.
And so that SB1, can you talk more about that? I see that some signs around and so forth.
So the SB1 is the extension of gas tax. In 2017, the state added on additional gas tax that gets distributed to all of the agencies, the cities and the counties. And so that extra SB1 money is what we are allotting to our road resurfacing program.
Great, thank you. Janelle specifically had a question about Kenneth Avenue. She commented that's a shared road between the city and the county, and she wanted to know how it was determined when that was resurfaced.
We currently don't have any plans, and we have not been informed of any plans from the Sacramento County to address that road as well. But it is a gateway into the city on the east side of our jurisdiction, and so we will be looking at some opportunities not only to resurface Kenneth and Oak, but also to improve a lot of the pedestrian and bicycle accessibility in that area. That is one of our priorities when we are looking at doing road improvements, is to see how we can improve the accessibility for all users.
Kathy wanted to know specifically about Sunrise Boulevard. She called it a bumpy ride.
It is a bumpy ride. We have done some improvements on Sunrise at different areas of the corridor. We've done what we call area or zone Complete Streets 1 and Complete Streets 3, which focused on Oak Avenue to the north city limits. And we do have funding programmed, again, with the Sacramento Transportation Authority to address the next phase, which would be Greenback to Oak Avenue. We expect, again, sometime in the next year, maybe in March or April, that we should know exactly when those funds will come available. And I know that somebody had a concern regarding, is a wall going to go up? We are looking at some options for improving the existing wall on the east side of Sunrise in that section.
Great, great. So we rely a lot on grant funding. Is that how the funding comes to determine?
We do. For our major streets, which are all of your major corridors and some of what we call collectors like Twin Oaks and Mariposa, we look to leverage our local funds here in Citrus Heights to get grant funds. And typically it's about a 10% match. So for every $10 of local money, then we get maybe $100 of grant money. So it's very important for us to look to leverage our local money when we can.
Great. I know you guys do a lot of work on submitting grants and have been rewarded quite a few, so that's awesome. That's
we do. Work. We've actually just recently submitted a grant that we should be hearing about if we are successful on those receiving those funds by this August. And this is for San Juan. This is focusing on the area from just north of the Madison intersection up to Greenback Lane. And we would be looking at not only resurfacing the street, we understand that there's a lot of sections of San Juan that are in need of major repair, but also improving the pedestrian and bicycle accessibility, primarily along the east side, so we can make sure we can get our students to school and get our residents to some of those shopping areas.
Great. Well, we'll keep an eye on that grant,
yes.
See how it goes. Another popular question regarding traffic, specifically neighborhood traffic. Star and Tony both had concerns about the amount of traffic that cut through their neighborhoods and were speeding, and we're looking for suggestions on how to handle that.
So first and foremost, if it's speeding, please contact the police department. They can look to see what resources they have to put out there for some enforcement, maybe put out some of their speed trailers. But in terms of cut through traffic, it's not illegal. People are allowed to use residential streets. However, if you're interested in some options that we have with our neighborhood traffic control in terms of different amenities or improvements that can be done within your neighborhood to address some of the extra traffic and make sure that your neighborhood is pedestrian friendly, you can contact the General Services Department, and our General Services and Engineering team can help you.
Great. And what number would they call, or how would they contact?
That would be 916-727-4770, or again, you can also email it servicerequestgsd@citrusheights.net.
Great. I just want to remind everybody, we are answering questions that have been submitted to us, but we'll take questions live if you have any. So make sure and say hi and send some questions over if you have any. This will be recorded and saved, so in the future, if you are reviewing this later and you have questions you would like us to answer, make sure and send us a note. Okay, so going on from our next door group, Tony mentioned that the amount of cut-through traffic on Old Auburn between Wachtel and Fair Oak seems to be increasing. So thanks, hi, to our next door group for submitting the questions.
Again, we have to expect that with being kind of the center of this region, we do get a lot of traffic that comes through from Placer County through Citrus Heights into other jurisdictions, and unfortunately that's just the nature. But we are looking at some long-term solutions on how to address some of that down the Old Auburn corridor.
All right. Hi to everyone that joined us. Micah joined us. Hi. Tricia had a question about speeding along Tupelo and drivers running stop signs and looking for some advice on that.
Again, that's an enforcement issue. We want to make sure that if you see speeding on your street or traffic infractions such as people running stop signs, please be sure to contact the Citrus Heights Police Department and report those. And they can look at deploying some of their resources out to address that.
And you know the non-emergency police number?
It's 916-727-5500.
Great, thanks. All right, Judy, also from our next door group, wanted to know about the sound wall. Oh, that's the one you answered earlier in that other one.
Yes, we are looking at options on how we can address that, not only for the aesthetic purposes, but hopefully to relieve some of those residents who live immediately adjacent to Sunrise Boulevard.
Great, great. So those was our questions we had submitted online. There was one more that came in recently. So Megan was asking about paving. She had noticed that it was going to be paved from Bartig to Fleetwood, but then Fleetwood circle was a circle or a half circle. So she was asking about how that was going to work.
Yes, so Maidstone Way is scheduled for a resurfacing project, and that is under our 2020 program, utilizing again our SB1 money. So Maidstone will be paved the frontage road, which is just adjacent to Madison Avenue, and then the curve northbound, and then connect over by Cambridge Elementary School. So that entire stretch will be repaved.
Great. It looks like we have had a few questions come in. Let's see. Mariah is excited about work being done on Mariposa between Greenback and Madison.
Yes.
And she's assuming it's new sidewalks and some sort of safe routes near the school?
Yes, we actually do have two different phases coming up on Mariposa. We have our current project, which is our Mariposa 3, and that focuses primarily in the area north of Farmgate. And then we also have our Mariposa 4, which provides connectivity all the way down to Madison Avenue. I believe construction on Mariposa 4 is scheduled 2 years out at this point. We are currently under design.
Great, that's good.
Yeah.
So that was from Micah. So thanks, Micah. Dave, any more roundabouts? He wants to know about those roundabouts. Are we looking at adding any more roundabouts?
We are always open to looking at any type of improvements that we can put here in the city to provide for traffic calming as well as enhance pedestrian safety throughout our corridors. So
Great.
Go ahead and make that suggestion to our council or to our city manager.
Great. Anything else out there?
No other questions? No? Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We're so excited that we were able to do this with you this evening, and we hope to make this a regularly standing episode or event with you. And we're hoping next month, I believe it's July 18th, will be our next session. So keep looking out on our Facebook site for different topics that will be coming up. Hopefully you have a good evening. Thank you.
Bye.